we're going to pick up with Chapter 1, Biology in the 21st Century, on scientific thinking and processes. There are 7 parts of the scientific method, the first one being observation, the second, form a hypothesis, third, perform an experiment, fourth, analyze the data, fifth, evaluate those results, sixth, draw a conclusion, and 7, you write a report and, if possible, publish in a scientific journal. Now, when you make an observation, it's using any of your senses. It's not just sight. It could be taste, smell, hearing, just anything. Okay, but in science, we use a lot with our eyes. So it would be something like, gee, the sky is blue. And then that makes you form a question. I wonder why the sky is blue. Forming a hypothesis. A hypothesis is going to make a prediction on something that you think will happen. The third, you perform an experiment. This experiment tests the hypothesis. When you perform that experiment, you're going to be collecting lots and lots of data, normally in the form of some type of a numerical data, whether or not it's that your plants have grown so tall or that you are measuring certain wavelengths of light. But no matter what you're doing in the experiment, you're going to be getting data. Once you get that data, you're going to have to evaluate or perform some type of test to determine what those results actually mean. And that's what it means by evaluate the results. You draw a conclusion. Did your hypothesis, did the experiment turn out like you expected? Or do you reject your hypothesis and start over? If everything goes well, eventually you write a report, publish it in a paper, and that paper, unless it's like a science class, okay, if it is a big, large-scale research project done at a college, okay, you might be submitting it to a scientific journal. Scientific journals are primary resources. They are packed full of nothing but scientific experiments that people have done over the years. Some of the most common scientific journals would be like the New England Journal of Medicine, or the Journal of Entomology, the Journal of Paleontology, the Journal of Theoretical Physics. Any subject in science has at least one journal. Okay, experimental design. Scientists are trying to explain how or why things happen by stating that hypothesis. Hypothesis is a testable question. Now, parts of the experiment include the independent variable, or the IV. This is the condition that is changed by the scientist. When you are thinking about this, consider, what did I change in the experiment? Okay, so independent variable, what did I change? The dependent variable, or the DV, is what is measured, or the outcome. Like, how tall did my plants grow? Okay? So it's whatever you are measuring. Within our experiment, we want to make sure that the only thing affecting any sort of change, the only thing affecting our dependent variable, is our independent variable. So everything else has to remain constant. Okay? I'm going to go through on another video, and we're going to go through an experiment and all of the parts of the experiment so that you can understand this a little bit more. Okay, but a scientist tries to explain again how or why things happen by stating a hypothesis. An example hypothesis would be, I believe that the more fertilizer I add to the soil of my tomato plants, the taller my tomato plants will grow. So we're going to break that down into the variables. The IV, the independent variable, what did I change? I changed the amount of fertilizer I added. What was I measuring? What was the DV? How tall did my plants grow? My constants? Constants are going to be everything in that experiment I kept the same, like the type of tomato plants, the size of the pots, the amount of water, the amount of sunlight. Anything that would affect my tomatoes' growth, I would keep constant, except for the amount of fertilizer. Now, as far as data analysis, there are 2 types of data. We have quantitative data and qualitative data. Quantitative data has to do with numbers, like to quantify something or to count. So quantitative data is numerical data or having to do with numbers or counting. Things like height, weight, number of subjects, or anything that can be counted. Qualitative data is going to be non-numerical data. Okay, these are things that cannot be quantified, cannot be counted, and cannot be fully measured. These are going to be observations, feelings. Okay, if you are watching an animal in the field, okay, what did that animal do? You're writing down observations. Okay, but quantitative is numbers, qualitative is no numbers.